Hi, everybody. Welcome to Watches with Dennis. And hopefully I sound okay now. I've gotten past my COVID phase, and I'm hoping I don't pick that back up. And so we have a bunch of stuff to be discussing because of Watches and Wonders. Now, um, so normally Watches and Wonders, for those that aren't familiar, just as a quick nutshell, is a big event that happens every year. It's the biggest event at this point regarding watches. And so we tend to see a lot of brands hold until this time of the year and then drop a whole lot of watches out on us. Now, a lot of the discussions online and discussions that I've tried to put out video wise on this channel have focused on some of the bigger players that a lot of people focus on. Rolex, obviously, Tudor, Patek, Cartier, JLC. There's a whole lot. And I'm actually working on a script now for what watches are my 10 favorite, or I'm going to call it top 10, but of course that's all clickbait. My 10 favorites in terms of models that have been revealed. I think I've seen everything at this point. Of course, the event is still going on. It goes on until April 7th, but usually you find out almost everything on the first day. So in terms of background, or in terms of housekeeping items, as I usually say, I have a whole lot of stuff to share with you. So I'm going to drop a whole bunch of links in the chat. I don't normally have more than maybe one video pre-recorded in any given week because why strain yourself? But this time around it's a little bit different. So I have a whole slew of things for you to be able to consider, and I've dropped those in. So I've done two, I guess what we call full videos, regular videos, much like how this live stream comes through, 16:9 formatted videos. I have one on the Burgundy Tudor Black Bay 58. And then I have one on the Rolex Land Dweller, because those, of course, well, the Burgundy really interested me, so I wanted to talk about it. And the Land Dweller, with the new movement and being a new model, I felt it warranted a new video. Now I did some YouTube shorts, which are, terrible ad revenue wise. They don't do anything, but they're easier to put together, and they're fun. I think they're fun enough to watch on the phone. So occasionally I'll do things on that. So I did one on the new white dial Tudor Black Bay Pro. I did one on the Oris Big Crown Pointer Date in yellow because I really like that one. And the most recent one was actually on Patek's new Platinum and Salmon Dial Calatrava. So all the links are in the live chat there. You can always just go to the channel to find all that stuff. Down in the video description today is going to be a bunch of links usually to the website of the companies. There's one exception regarding a Chopard that I want to talk about today. However, there are links to all of that, plus a link to the Watches and Wonders website. What I wanted to focus on today with you all are less discussed brands. Now, what's the definition of that? It's whatever we want it to be. It's basically you have 60 companies presenting at Watches and Wonders, and I would argue maybe 10 of them are what you would say at best in a first breath. Everything else is a lesser brand. It's a less known brand. Chopard it's a well-known jewelry brand, but it is not a first breath brand watch that people talk about when they start talking about watches. As great as Parmigiani is, it is not a first breath brand watch. And there are even some smaller players or more affordable players as well, like Alpina, I would argue. So we're going to go through, I think I've got something like 7 that I wanted to discuss. And I don't like all 7 of these. I just thought they deserved to have a discussion. And I figured the live stream would be the best opportunity to go ahead and do that. So on the wrist today is not a small brand. This is my Rolex 16570 Polar Dial. I guess I wore it because the new white Tudor version of the Black Bay Pro came out. And I think that'll do very well for Tudor, even though they didn't shrink the watch down. So maybe not. Most of the comments on that have mostly been in the realm of, I love it in white. Why didn't they make it any smaller? Because that's not how Tudor works. You got to wait years, and Tudor will finally iterate and get you closer to what you wanted, which is kind of like what's going on with the new Burgundy Black Bay 58 regarding the new 5-link bracelet and having an option without faux rivets and all that. But we're not here to talk about those. We're here to talk about more obscure things. But again, I'm using that term somewhat loosely. I'm going to start with Parmigiani Fleurier because I love being right. But let me say hello first to Tuna. Thank you for being a club member. Glad you are there. You are here. And there wherever you are. Underachieving Watch Collector, good morning. First comment on the video I did on the Patek. I think maybe the only comment on the Patek short video that I did, though it's got views. People just, I think once you're up over $40,000 retail, there's just not a lot to say about a lot of watches. I think that's a general rule. I, of course, decided I was going to do the video before I look at the price. And then because I thought, I don't know where this is going to be at. Pateks on Calatravas are going to be over 30,000 retail, but it was platinum, not gold. So of course it had to go up even more. But anyway, all right. So onto the show. So Parmigiani Fleurier. The reason why I'm starting with this one is because as I said, I like being right. And I gave you a few hopes. I think it was the last live stream. I gave a few hopes about what I hoped to see at Watches and Wonders. And two of those hopes for sure came true. One, I hoped that Oris would not reveal another Muppet watch at the show, and they haven't done it. So thank you, Oris. And in fact, I really did like a lot about what Oris did reveal. And then Parmigiani. I said that they were going to iterate and make a more complicated version of the Toric because they brought out the new, refined, classical, much more commercially appealing, and I mean that in a good way, commercially appealing Toric last year. And it got a lot of buzz, but it's a very expensive watch. So, of course, we're going to have an even more complicated version that's even more expensive, and that is the Toric Quantime. I don't know if this is supposed to be French, Italian, or Spanish. I don't know what it is. Quantime. I'll say Quantime. The Toric Quantime Perpetual. It's a Perpetual. The Toric Perpetual at 92,000 Swiss francs. So that's going to be over 100,000 US dollars before factoring in tariffs. But it met the expectation. The Toric it came out as a very basic dress watch. The Toric is the oldest line, I believe, from Parmigiani Fleurier. When Michel Parmigiani founded his own brand, I believe the Toric was the first thing that he put out, at least on a commercial scale, to be able to sell. I never loved his version of the Toric with the javelin hands and everything. It was too avant-garde for me. But under the new CEO's leadership, everything that Parmigiani has been doing has gotten much more understated, much more classical. I liked some of the, I like both basically. But in the realm of the Toric, I think the Toric is better in this new iteration. So you can see here, it's a pretty impressive watch, 60 hours of power reserve for a perpetual calendar. The case is platinum. It's not steel. It's under 11 millimeters thick. So they actually got it pretty thin for a perpetual calendar. And they've gone with the alpha style hands. For those of you who are familiar with their Tonda line, they do a delta format, which they're really the only ones I know that do a delta, which is kind of a skeletonized version. But anyway, so I wanted to point it out mostly because it made it wasn't really a prediction. It made my hope right that they would go ahead. I was hoping they would go ahead and do the recipe they've been doing with the Tonda, which is let's just throw in some complications. Does it make sense? I don't know. In the Tondas, it kind of half makes sense. And I've had these discussions in the Watches with Dennis Discord with people, which again, link in the video description below if you want to join that. They in the sense that like you have GMT watches without GMT bezels. So just how practically useful is it? It's like, it's kind of useful, but not like properly useful. This is, quite readable. If you can't see it very well, you've got the days of the week on the interior portion of the 9 o'clock subdial. And then you've got the date, the day of the month on the exterior ring, and then well balanced, because that's what Parmigiani does now, is extremely handsome balancing, is you've got the leap year indicator on the interior of the 3 o'clock subdial, and then you have the month on the exterior. And so that's how they do it. Very straightforward, very classical, and lets them keep this extremely dress watch oriented. There's a lot of complication here for what a watch, when you glance at it, you're going to think is possibly some sort of like patrimony or something, but it's not. I did see that underachieving, it'd say Parmigiani can never charge too much money. No, they cannot. The price is absolutely obscene. I will say Parmigiani has a extremely, I'll say, bad habit of thinking more of themselves than they really are. I get it. King Charles wears Parmigiani. Nobody cares. Like, I like Parmigiani. I have 2 Parmigiani watches, but they come in at extremely aggressive price points as if they were an extremely established brand. Now, they didn't just come out yesterday. Michel Parmigiani founded this brand, decades ago, but it's a newer brand still. And they just don't have the market penetration to warrant the prices that they want. The most basic Tondas at this point, those are steel watches. Yes, they have platinum bezels, but the watches themselves are steel. They are priced like, I think the time date ones are priced around 25,000 US dollars. That's not unheard of for a integrated sports watch, but like you're well above like Eigener and Rolex Landweller and all sorts of other things. It's like you're coming in closer to the Nautilus, but you're saying, well, we're going to be 10 grand less than the Nautilus. So it's like Chopard's integrated bracelet watches are cheaper than this. So anyway, this is one of those things. But nonetheless, my overall thought on the watch itself is it looks really good. I think how they executed, this is one of the most tasteful perpetual calendars I can think of that I've seen. It's extremely well done. Not a huge fan of the dial color in this case. I get it. Like, this is what brands do. Chopard did it with their new Alpine Eagle that came out at Watches and Wonders. And it's like the go-to thought with the Daytona. If we're doing a platinum cased watch, we just can't help but stick a blue dial in the thing, even though we have plenty of steel watches, which look basically the same as platinum, and we don't stick blue in everything on that. But anyway, I don't really like this Easter egg pastel blue. It looks fine, but I wouldn't want to wear it. It complements the strap well. But Parmigiani will do other colors. Most of the time, I really like their colorways, so this one's just not working for me. But overall, I think the watch itself looked really good. But again, I'm pointing it out because it was just one of those hopes that I hoped I would see, and we did see it. Watches for you. Good morning. Glad you have been able to join us. All right. That was expensive. So let's move to a more affordable side. Still luxury, but let's move to a more affordable end of the spectrum. And let's talk about Alpina. I know on the last live stream, I think it was the last live stream, may have been a comment on a video of mine. I've had some people express that they were really looking forward to seeing what Alpina was going to bring out at Watches and Wonders. Now, Alpina is not a brand I've ever owned. I've been familiar with them for a long time, but I've never really seen anything that I gravitated towards. And the watch that caught my eye this year, though I still, unfortunately for me, don't gravitate towards it, or maybe fortunately, because I would rather not spend money, is their new Heritage Tropic Proof watch. And so this came out. I'm showing you the black version, but this is a very small watch. This is, I mean, when they say Heritage, they mean it. This is a 34 millimeter watch. I think it's pretty attractive. I don't love, I'm trying to think of a good way to phrase this. You play with fire, in my opinion, in the watch world, when you mix fonts on a dial. Lots of brands do it. And sometimes they do it very well, and sometimes it's more questionable. Like, I think the Super Sea Wolf scripted font that they use, that Zodiac uses on the Super Sea Wolf, looks okay with the Zodiac name in its block letters that they do. Here, where the Alpina logo, which for whatever reason, I think it's just because how they connect all the letters together, I always get these AC/DC logo vibes, looks fairly aggressive. And then you have this very staid Tropic Proof statement, because again, this is the Heritage Tropic Proof. I like the handset. I like the fairly aggressive indices, but the watch innately is boring. And while I like boring watches, the lug distance looks decent, but I at 34 millimeters, I think this is just going to wear too small. So I was not impressed by this. I thought it's a perfectly handsome piece, but it's a very generic looking watch. And I don't know anything about this that stands out. It's a hand wind only movement. Okay. But it's only 42 hours of power reserve. So that's not impressive. Again, if you really like black dial watches, maybe this is going to work for you. Or if you're, what I'm assuming is, if you're a real big fan of these Heritage lines, that's what they're going for. They have the kind of the indices don't have the lume. They have the little plips, the little Fotina plips of lume. I haven't seen yet imagery to let me know whether that's enough lume for that to really glow. The splotches of it are so minute. Even with it being super luminova, I just don't think it's going to be enough. So anyway, close case back, all that's fine. I think that makes sense. Very reasonable watch overall, but I mean, it's a very basic movement. The only thing that I really liked about it was, I wanted to get you the right sizing, is that the thickness is only 9.25 millimeters. So I really respect watches that get under 10 millimeters. This is hand wind meant I expected that it would be able to, but I wasn't sure that they would. However, the 30 meters of water resistance, again, it's a sporty looking watch. So tropic proof is 30 meters. That's what that means. I mean, again, I get it. It's a historic name that they're bringing up, but there's other than this being heritage inspired, there's nothing here. There's nothing here to really get worked up about. And it's over 2,000 US dollars. So this is a very pricey watch for basically nothing. So I was very surprised that Alpina turned this out. I don't think this does well for them. So I'm unsure. But yeah, $2,128. That seems pretty steep for what this is. That may be well within the realm of the normal Alpina lineup. But I wasn't really expecting anything, so I don't want to say I was disappointed, but I definitely expected more out of Alpina. I thought they'd do something more interesting than this, and they obviously did not. But hey, they got plenty of other stuff in the catalog if you want to check them out. That's a lot more interesting, in my opinion. HP says in the live chat, Alpina is a good sleeper brand. They have an in-house movement for a good price. Tuna says 34 millimeters. I quite like it. Fair play to Alpina for going back to a traditional size. And again, let me throw the image back up. The lugs look okay on this. I don't know if I don't think they listed the lug on the side. A lot of brands don't. This might wear decently. It's like I had an Oyster Perpetual 34 millimeter, and I did let it go because it was pretty small. But in part, I let it go because the prices got so high during the pandemic on Rolex models. But it was in a cushion case. It was the prior format of the Oyster Perpetual. And so it wore more like a 35 millimeter. And actually, I thought it looked pretty good on my wrist. But anyway, I let it go. But you definitely 34 millimeters can work. It's just, for me, 34 millimeters, at that point, I'm like, I want it to be a dress watch. All in on saying, let's have a 34 millimeter dress watch. Totally fine with that. It's not my preferred sizing, but I definitely consider it. This is like a sporty watch, but it's not really a sports watch. And I don't want to I don't know enough about Alpina that I don't want to go and get super judgmental and tell you that they should never have done something that seems to suggest it's like a field watch and then give it 30 meters of water resistance. It's not a field watch. It has applied indices. It doesn't have any Arabic numerals on it. It's just, I guess it's supposed to be a dress watch, but on the strap and everything else that it's got going on with it here, this Alcantara strap, to me it looks like it's sporty, and it says tropic proof, which makes me think it wants to be sporty, and then they give 3 atmospheres of water resistance. I just don't understand it. But anyway, one of those things. Underachieving says, just curious, but what is the tariff percent on watch export countries, Switzerland, Germany, and Japan? And Tuna says 30% plus for Switzerland, I think. I believe it's 31% for Switzerland, 25% for Japan. I do not know for Germany. Okay, next watch. Lesser known brand. Got a lot of talk last year, though, and that would be Bremont, the British brand. So I'm going to set the stage for you guys. Last year, Watches and Wonders. You have Davide, the new CEO of Bremont, who his biggest claim to fame is, as far as I know, is that he was CEO of Tudor when they rolled out the Black Bay. And the Black Bay has done gangbusters for Tudor. And so I think a lot of people feel this is a CEO that can turn brands around. I don't know that he's had any, I'll go ahead and say, I don't think he's had any level of success nearly as good as that. But everyone always has one thing that they were the best at. So it is what it is, sort of thing. And I'll pause here because I'll probably mispronounce your name because I see the umlaut, but Guni says EU is 20% tariff, I think. Oh, yes, that's right. They would be the standardized EU tariff. I keep forgetting about Switzerland not being in that. And Tuna says the same, 20%. So a lot, guys. It's a lot. So anyway, Bremont. So last year, Bremont at Watches and Wonders, so that's why it's relevant, revealed their whole rebrand. And it went over like a lead balloon. People hated it. They hated the new logo. They hated the generic watch designs. They hated that it felt like they just walked away from everything that Bremont had built up over the years. Now, I'm not a Bremont apologist. I think Bremont made a tremendous number of mistakes. And I don't really think it's debatable because of the fact that they basically needed to have a whole like buyout investor group come in and save the company. And it still, I think, remains to be seen that this company can be saved. But I agreed with a lot of that criticism. Like, I didn't understand like forsaking the logo. I get it in that sense that it fit in with this whole idea. They announced they were going to like do a land, sea, air thing, and Bremont before had been very leaning into like pilot air aesthetic stuff. But they had a unique design language. That being said, like they built a whole new factory, which business wise I think made very little sense. Their prices were absurd. I remember looking at a number of Bremonts I thought were really interesting. I think I have a video, it might have been a live stream, where we talked about that Argyle movie, and they had done the watches for Argyle. They had some very interesting designs there, and every single price was just like, why would you ever consider this unless you loved it, unless you loved this look over all other looks? So it was just a big struggle. And so the nice thing last year about Bremont was they did on some of their models really get the pricing down, but they were not inspired designs. They were not. So I didn't have any expectations with Bremont this year, but they did surprise me with something that I thought was very interesting. And that is, it's limited. It's 100-piece limited, but I still want to talk about it because they revealed it. And that would be the Terra Nova Jump Hour Bronze. Now, Cartier has some new jump hours also inspired by some of their 1920s watches. I forget the name, like Cartier de Guillache or something like that. And I don't know if I like those yet or not. I know what I don't like about those Cartiers, and that is the starting price, which the cheapest one is over 47,000 US dollars. And honestly, since they weren't on bracelet, I was absolutely gobsmacked that it was that high. But nonetheless, it is what it is, and it's Cartier. So, however, I'm torn on the legibility. There's a lot of white space on it. I actually think this is a really good jump hour design. Far more wearable for someone like me than I think the Cartiers are. Setting aside the price, which, yes, the price is not low. It's 4,900 pounds, so it's a very expensive watch. But again, limited. But I do want to talk a little bit about it because I think they did a good job on this one. I think it looks good in the bronze casing. Honestly, this is a sort of watch that would probably look really good in yellow gold. But again, I don't think Bremont's in the place where they should be pushing out a whole bunch of precious metal watches. So doing it in bronze lets them keep the price down. I just question how it will age because I like how it looks. Normally, I like the look of aged bronze. I don't know if I would like how this looks aged. I like how this looks in this photo. I like this. But this is very interesting. So we have the jump hour up here. I think they've left a good amount of white space, but still this whole vertical integration here is extremely clean. And they've actually balanced it pretty well in terms of, you'll be like, well, I wish the Terra Nova space was lined up with this triangle, for example. It's like, well, you have to factor in that there's more letters. So like, it's all actually really well centered vertically. Like you clicked center for your paragraph in Microsoft Word or something. And again, I mean this as a compliment. I think it looks very nice because they clustered all of the clutter in the center stripe and then left a lot of this brushed dial look, which is really just white space there to just shine, or not so shine, but because it's kind of a matte because of the brushing. But nonetheless, I think it looks really, really good. Plus, there's texturing here. You have this vertical brushing on the dial, but then you have this more circular brushing going on around the case. It creates visual interest. But jump hour up at the top towards the 12 o'clock position. You have the minutes disc down towards the 6, and then in the middle with the logo, that spins. That's running seconds. So they even included a running seconds here. So it's designed to make it look like a compass, but that's the running seconds. So that's like something like Mr. Jones watches would have done with a design. That's practicality aside, with the look of the watch, I think that was a really smart idea. I think this is a very good looking watch. I would argue this is the best looking watch I have seen out of Bremont in 3 years. And so I was very surprised at this. And in a lot of ways, I'm going to say, I'll flat out say it. I like this design a lot better than those new Cartiers with the jump hours. The Cartiers, I'm sure the finishing and all that's going to be incredible, but I really questioned the legibility on those watches. Again, they're really leaning into a 1920s aesthetic. Here, I would like to handle it, but I think this is going to be very legible because sometimes with jump hours, if the apertures are small and stuff, I have a jump hour Mr. Jones watch, doesn't have a spinning compass in the center or anything, but it's very difficult to tell the time on it in low light situations because the aperture windows are just so small, and because the discs are sunken, a lot of light is lost as you try and drop down that level to actually read what the discs say. But I was going to go ahead and see if I could show you some of the stats. So it's 38 millimeter. Obviously, it's a cushion case. I love cushion cases. I think they wear really comfortable in most instances. So, but 38 millimeter watch. So it's not huge. It's a modest sized watch. Okay, they PVD'd the back. That's another plus for Bremont. I don't like a bunch of bronze touching your skin if you can avoid it. Lug to lug is 44 millimeters, and the case is only 9.1 millimeters thick. So this is a thin watch. Honestly, the only problems are it's limited. We can be, if you love limited, okay, but my opinion on limited, I think I'm not a big fan of it. And the price is high. It's a high price. Like that's so high that I'm not actually going to consider getting this. If it shows up used, I'll evaluate it then. At 100, they may keep the value retention relatively decent. That's a reasonably limited count. It's not like something dumb like 15,555 out of Seiko or something. But regardless, setting the price aside, I've talked about this week plenty of watches that are too expensive for me to ever honestly consider. But I just wanted to give them credit because I really thought this was good, and I thought Davide took a lot of took a licking last year for just how generic the watches under his watch have been, and I think he deserved that. I think they were very boring, but I understood the strategy to appeal to more generic customers. You need more commercially appealing watches, but to do something like this to show that they still care, I guess. I mean, this is an enthusiast watch. This is not someone off the street is not walking in and buying this. You have to be into watches to want this. So I really just wanted to give them credit for it because I think they deserved it. So, okay. Watchdog Podcast. Welcome to the live stream, by the way. Liking the Bremont releases this year, back to having some personality and not so insert generic micro brand here. Still don't like the pricing. Yes, the pricing has improved, broadly speaking, on their main catalog stuff, I feel, compared to where they were under prior leadership. The English brothers, I believe, were their name. But no, it's not great. And the problem, of course, is Bremont is in this very uncomfortable position. And I think Watchdog Podcast has really struck at it. They don't have the name recognition to be like competing with Tudors and IWCs and Cartiers and all the rest of it. They're going to be lumped in with the micro brands. But so many of the micro brands are going to give similar design aesthetics, not this new jump hour, but other watches, give similar design aesthetics, or even quite fairly more interesting design aesthetics at significantly lower pricing. So that's not a great place to be in. It's like you're not priced like Seiko and Orient and a bunch of the micro brands. You've got the name recognition of a micro brand, but your pricing is much more in that middle tier luxury space where I would say like where Tag and Tudor operate, entry level Omega kind of operates. It's like it's too much. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just unfortunate, but it is what it is. HP says that is very good looking. He's referring to the Bremont. Then Scotty Pinball asked, what was in the middle of the dial? Yeah, that's the running seconds, I believe, to make it look like it's the hands on the compass with this is the compass is the new logo, which I don't think it's a bad logo, but their prior logo was pretty cool. And I think changing the logo was a very strange first step to do. Because I don't think people get too hung up on look, it's propellers as a logo. Oh no, we can't sell a land watch. Do people really overthink it that much? I mean, I'm sure some do, but I'm using hyperbole here. Do people really overthink it? No, they don't. Come on. It's a logo. People don't get, it's like obsessing over what is Christopher Ward's logo supposed to be? I only know because people have said it so many times. That's like a merging of the British or the UK flag and the Swiss flag. It's like, it's so stylized, it's lost on anyone. Nobody cares. Tuna says 4,900 pounds seems rather expensive still. At least for Bremont Bremont is trying something different. It looks more legible than the new Cartier jump hour. Yes, I do want to check out the new Cartier jump hours. There's so many other Cartiers I would rather have than one of those, I think. But I was trying to decide if I liked them or not when I thought that the pricing on the platinum ones would still be sub 30,000. Just because then I thought, okay, well, let's think about when they go used or all that, whether or not it might be something to check out. I'd still like to see them in person. But when I saw the gold ones started like 47.2 and the platinum ones are all over 50,000, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to actually ask the AD about it. Let's put it that way. Okay. Next brand. Let's jump to the next obscure brand. Well, let me pause on that because I see Underachieving just sent a chat message, so I do want to cover that first. The problem with weak brands is why buy new, let depreciation work for you, and buy at 50% discount. That you could argue would be a problem for any brand unless they trade for more used than new. So aside from a number of Patek models and most of the Rolex catalog, though that's very slight for a lot of the models at this point, most just aren't in, and AP, most aren't in that boat. So yeah, because that's my general approach. Like I those of you who watch the channel a while have probably realized that I'm relatively cheap in my strategies. I know some of my watches are expensive, but my strategies are pretty cheap. I buy almost everything gray or used. I have occasionally bought harder to get watches, new, certain things that if the price isn't too bad and I really want it, sure. Like I bought my Mr. Jones watches new. Those were limited releases and it was a few $100s. But otherwise, so other than building brand like cachet with your AD, which I've not been doing, and maybe I should have, but I've not been doing that. Like the Tudor Burgundy that I like. I've already emailed my AD asking about, like, I'd like to know when the 5-link bracelet version comes in because I want to try it on. I'm almost assuredly not buying it from them. I didn't tell them that in the email, but I'll wait for it to hit Joma Shop in a year and I'll buy it then, would be the thought. Or I'll buy it used. So I just tend to do that with any, even if it's a known brand. Yeah, it's still at the point where it's like you pay more for steel Rolex than new. So I'll wait on a list because I'm not passionate about needing it immediately. But almost everything else, used is or gray, depending on how many of a model it comes out with. So anyway, but weak brands are, I agree, underachieving. They're in an even worse position because there's no sense of retention. So you just feel like you're leaving a lot of money on the table the moment you walk out. And some people have the money where they won't care about that. But a lot of us live in the real world and we care about the amount of money that we just immediately give up. And so I would rather someone else take the hit and take a few scratches on the watch. So it's that kind of situation. Watchdog Podcast says you could argue that for brands like Omega now too, with these crazy hikes. Yeah, Richemont's my poster child. JLC. Oh, I love so much of JLC on the dress watch front. Their Master Control line, the Master Ultra Thin line, and of course the Reversos. But oh my, I'm just like, guys, you have forgotten who you are. You are not Patek and you are not Vacheron, but you're pricing like you are. And it's not, I don't think it's working for them, but it is what it is. Speaking of brands that have been struggling, let's jump to Chronoswiss. So Chronoswiss, for those that don't know, is the unofficial watch brand of Watches with Dennis. I've never owned a Chronoswiss, but I feel like they need to be my unofficial brand because they need all the help they can get. Last year, I did not like their release. They had several, but the one that was featured on the Watches and Wonders website was like I don't remember if they called it the Green Monster or what, but it was a mix of green and purple and guilloche, and like the craftsmanship was great. It was an ugly watch. Like because I don't really know stuff about color. I'm not a design person. I like watches because they're cool, but I don't know. Like I can tell you what I like. I like what I like, but I'm not like a designer. I don't have any design background. I don't know stuff about art, but so I went and looked and I confirmed like it had orange on it too. It's like they used clashing colors on that watch. And I'm just like, why would you deliberately clash stuff? It looks weird. Makes it stand out, but it looks weird. It was an ugly watch. So I was very disappointed in their reveal last year. But this year, again, they've done a number of things, but I wanted to go ahead and talk a bit about their new Pulse One watches because I think these actually look pretty good. Don't know that I would get. The more I've looked at them, the more I've liked them. And full disclosure, the one sand is the one I think looks the best. But again, if you prefer blue dials, I've got the blue dial version. But see, what I like about this is this goes into, at first I thought they were doing the Bremont, or not Bremont, sorry, it's still a Bremont on the brain, the Brigade thing, where you've got, or the Bel Canto, you got the hours and minutes on a disc that it's only takes up at most half of the dial. And then you have a complication or something in the lower half of the dial or whatever. And I'm okay with those designs on some watch. I don't like the Brigade Traditionale because it's too skeletonized for me. But like the Longa one, it does that. It offsets the hours and minutes to make room for some other stuff. A lot of times they're legible. Great, whatever. But this isn't actually doing that. I thought it was at first until I looked at closer images and then realized that what they're doing, I'm trying to see if I can get this a better zoom because it doesn't let me click again. I cannot. But this is a regulator. Now, back in the day, before Chronoswiss decided that what they're going to be known for is guilloche and really weird combinations of stuff, they were known for doing regulators. And I think this is a very handsome looking regulator. I like this one because you have the salmon dial. It's frosted. I think frosted salmon looks really good. That's what Patek has done on that new Calatrava, the platinum one that I have that YouTube short about. So you've got the blue against that, which I don't even think this is heat blue. I think this is like PVD blue. This reminds me of the Tudor 1926 blue, which actually, I know we all love heat blued. It's a cool concept. It's a very traditional way to do it. That Tudor 1926 blue plays with the light so much better than heat blued. This looks like it does the same, but I'm guessing it's a PVD because this looks very blue to me. Anyway, so you have the hours up here in this upper 12 o'clock subdial. You have the you have the minutes, I think, going on here at the with the center pinion around the edge of the case, and then you have a retrograde on the 30 seconds with a slightly lower pinion playing down around the 6 o'clock position. Again, big vertical integration, kind of like that Bremont jump hour. Obviously, a busier dial in this instance. I think it looks pretty good. Onion crown with a crown guard. And I still don't know. Their obsession with always doing these giant onion crowns is, I think, as a design language motif, maybe it's time to not do it on every single watch, but it is what it is. In some ways, I do think it makes it sleeker, at least, so it doesn't stand out quite so obnoxiously. I think the bezel looks good. I think the bracelet looks interesting. So again, there's a lot here. And as usual, the movement finishing on Chronoswiss are very, very nice. If you really, I'd say like, if you like the Czapek movement finishing, you might want to, or maybe Moser's as well. Take a look at Chronoswiss. They don't do it the same way as either of those companies, but it's kind of in that spirit, in my, at least in my head canon, it is. So overall, I thought this was a pretty good looking watch. It's titanium, by the way. So integrated sports watch in titanium. So it's going to wear really lightly. So yeah, I think overall, they did a pretty good job, obviously, with the brushing and stuff. Well, not just the brushing. They've done grade 5. So some people care about that. I've never actually owned a grade 5 titanium watch, but here's a better look at some of the frosting and stuff that's going, even like the Rehat has got frosting on it. So again, here's a good shot with the watch and the light. I just think this one looks really good. It's a limited edition also. And there's a blue and silver one if you would rather explore that, also limited to 100. But pricing, of course, is going to be really high out of these. I don't know how much. Oh, there it is. All right, 13,300. So not as bad as you might think, but it is a 5-figure watch. So overall, I just think they did a better release this year. So that's part of the reason I wanted to mention them. Again, Chronoswiss doesn't get a lot of discussion on YouTube or in watch media in general. I think they've been struggling lately. I think that Chronoswiss is one of those like bargain brands, if you want to go back to the early 2000s or maybe even the 90s, where they used a lot of third-party movements. You get like, if you want to deal on a gold-cased watch, Chronoswiss is a good company to explore, especially if you're willing to consider used regulators. They have a lot going on there, and the dials tend to look pretty good because they have a fondness for guilloche. This frosting is a less commonly done approach by them. But lately, I think their stuff looks garish at best, and they've really struggled to have a good visual look. I'm going to go ahead and just quickly, I'm going to click on the home button here to show you what I mean. See, it's stuff like this. Like nobody's buying this stuff. In fact, this is some of the colorway that was going on in the watch I was making fun of earlier from last year's Watches and Wonders. They've got some stuff that's tasteful, but a lot of their stuff is it's really busy. It's like MBNF meets a Guilloche monster. And I just don't think a lot of it works with the sizing and everything else that they end up doing. So it's a strange brand for me. I don't know. I always just sort of root for them because I think they're creative at least. So, full kudos for that. They deserve credit for being as creative as they are. But oh my gosh, they have a lot of misses in their catalog. So anyway, I thought this looked pretty good. But let me see. Let me go ahead and get caught up with the chat. Welcome. I see more people have joined in. Art the Clown. Well, welcome, Art the Clown. I don't know if you've been on this live stream before, but I don't recognize your name. That blue dial, black bezel, black base 68 won the week for me. That watch is stunning. My next purchase. You probably have a bigger wrist than me. I think I could pull that off. I think I read that the lug to lug was just over 50 millimeters. I can go to about, I have a 6.75 inch wrist. I can go to about 52 millimeter lug to lug and the watch won't, I could safely say the watch won't overhang. I have a Moser Pioneer that's pushing that. That's my biggest watch currently on the lug to lug sense. The Black Bay 68s, I agree with you. The blue dial was the better one. I didn't really like the monochrome. It reminded me of the Omega Seamaster no date monochromes that came out around November, where I didn't even know at first if the picture was in black and white or not. So that one with the silver dial didn't work for me. I think the watch, honestly, I thought the watch was too large for a silver dial. Maybe that's a weird way to phrase it, but like the Tudor Black Bay, the ones that are like 36 millimeter and stuff with the silver dials, I've never loved those with the silver dial, which normally I like silver quite a bit, but I don't know. It's just too unfinished looking to me. They need to frost it or they need to sunburst it or something. I don't know. I'm rambling, but the 68s, the only thing I really didn't like about the 68s is I don't like the name because this naming convention doesn't make any sense to me anymore. So we have some where the numbers seem to mean the sizing. 58 doesn't. That's a 39. So 68 is bigger and it is a larger diameter, but it's not 68 millimeters in diameter, which, I mean, who could wear it if it was? But just, I don't know. It's getting a little chaotic to me because the 68s are 43 millimeter, aren't they? Here was part of my confusion. Again, this is about less known brands, so Tudor isn't really in the boat with it. But here's part of where I got confused. So the Tudor Black Bay non-number is 41 millimeters, so the 68 is 43. Except Tudor Black Bay bronzes, not the 58, the original, which was a tropical brown dial, and the black one. And I'm saying this because I owned one. Tudor Black Bay bronze without a number applied to it is 43. Even though it's not called a 68, it's in the regular Black Bay non-numeral lineup. So the Black Bay non-numeral lineup has already historic precedent for being 41 millimeter and 43 millimeter. Should they have done that? Probably not, because it was always confusing. But now you've got 43 millimeters called 60. So here's my solution. They're not going to do it, but here's my solution. They should rename the Tudor Black Bay bronzes moving forward to 68s so that the sizing falls into the new bucket that they've created. But I don't even know how many of those bronzes they sell anymore. So anyway, it was just always one of those things. So when I saw that the 68 came out and then I saw it was 43 millimeters, I was like, but you already have 43 millimeter Black Bays and you just called them Black Bays. They were just the bronze ones. I don't know why they were 2 millimeters bigger than the other Black Bays, but they were. It's just how it, and they still make that watch. So anyway, just one of those things. Anyway, getting caught up. Matthew, thank you, by the way, Matthew, for being a 99-cent club member. I do appreciate the support. Link to that, by the way, is in the video description for anybody who cares. That is the only plug that will be said for that from this point on. Richemont has been imposing a 30% tariff on their watches for a couple of years now. That's I would use a different term than tariff, but they have been imposing quite an uptick in the charging. Yes, Richemont is my poster child for obscene pricing, and I blame the conglomerate for it. Tuna says this, and that's why I loaded this back up, is almost pedestrian by Chronoswiss standards. Yes, it is. It's almost a throwback, but again, there's still some kind of new age stuff going on here. I don't know if I love this integrated bracelet. I think it looks okay. I'd like to try it on. I don't know anyone. I don't think I have anyone in the Kansas City area that sells Chronoswiss though. So, Yeah, Tuna says it will be 60% now. Yes, it will be. Matthew says, my Dornbluth and Zone finally gets built this summer. Between the weakening dollar against the euro and the tariffs, the final payment is going to hurt. The tariffs are going to hurt a lot of people that have orders pending. And for those that haven't checked it out, Mark with Long Island Watch does have a YouTube video talking about how he's got watches he's ordered, I believe. I mean, he's always ordering watches to sell. A lot of the stuff comes from China. So if you're kind of curious, he gets some Swiss stuff too, because I think he sells Squale. But you want to see some examples of just how much of a difference it makes on the importing, you can see it. Because for those of you who don't import, I've imported watches before. So like FedEx will charge you the tariff when they calculate the whole customs thing. And it's an interesting process. It's always really intimidating to people. Historically, until these new tariffs, I've been pretty cool with doing imports. I've imported from Japan. I've imported from Germany. And normally the tariff and customs and duties and all of that tends to be on the order of like 3.5% charge. It's less than sales tax. Well, my sales tax. But anyway, yeah, now it's going to be pretty significant. So very frustrating for people, I'm sure. Joe Bolt says, liked the new reversos, but pricing is hard to stomach. Yes, I'm working on a video where I do want to talk about one of those, but that is not done yet. HP says, maybe worth going to Europe to pick it up. I don't know how much those Dornbluths are, but HP's suggestion might not be a bad idea, actually. Art says, I wear the Seiko King Turtle all the time. I know smaller lug-to-lug, but I prefer a bulky diver, even though the Turtle is a magician with the wearing experience. I had a King Turtle. It wore very well. I had one of those textured turtle shell style ones, the USA exclusives. It was nice. I just didn't wear it very much because I don't tend to wear. I have one dive watch now. I just don't wear dive watches very much. Watchdog says 1968 is the intro of the snowflake hands, apparently. Yeah, I understand that they pulled it from a historic date, just like the 1921 is like based off of the year that Hans Wildorf registered the name to. Like, I get that there's a tie-in, but I would rather, I'm boring. I would rather the numbers like relate to the size of the watch or the water resistance or something. Like, I want it to make sense. It's not. No one knows Tudor's history except like hardcore fans. So the numbers just don't make sense. I am glad that 68 is bigger than 58. And the sizing is bigger there. So there's at least it's not incongruous like Xbox One after the Xbox 360. That's incongruous. You look at that and you're like, so that's the older one, right? It's like, no, the Xbox One's newer. Why is it called the One? We don't know because they got cute. Don't get cute, guys. HP said, I paid 70-ish tariff for a $4,000 Citizen. Felt like that was very fair. Yeah, and there's a baseline like $36 and something that kind of apply. There's multiple formulas that go into it. That's what intimidate people is because they're like, how much is it going to be? And you have to say, well, we can't tell you for sure because it's going to depend on what the seller lists as the bracelet value versus the movement value versus the watch case. And all three of those have different rules. So we can kind of approximate it, but it really depends on what they assign. Like if the movement gets assigned a lot of cost, I think that can be pretty advantageous versus if it's more I don't remember anymore, but it's a whole thing, guys. It's a whole thing. Scotty Pinball says Snowflake was 69 anyway, but they must not have wanted to call it a 69. My understanding, one, yes, I agree. They didn't want to call it. They didn't want to call it a 69. But what I think is the snowflake hands were introduced in 60, like they were unveiled or made in 68, but they didn't appear on watches until the 69 year. So it's kind of on that. It's kind of on that fence. So anyway, all right, we went on a Tudor tangent, even though we're talking about less discussed brands. So apologies for everyone who's just like, this is a downvote because you didn't even follow your own rules. But I do understand the judgment. So fair enough. So let's go to Czapek. All right. I think I saw this leaked before Watches and Wonders, their new Antarctique Tourbillon secret alloy. I do not like this. Sam, I am with ham, green eggs. I can't afford eggs anymore, but if I could, I wouldn't like them. I almost feel like Christopher Ward, I get it because they got the designer of the Antarctique to do the 12. But now it feels like we had the Antarctique and the 12 like cribbed heavily from it And now the Antarctique for the Tourbillon is cribbing from Christopher Ward. And we have this weird setup of a watch. And as usual, the movement, with its modern movement finishing, looks really, really good. It's a 40.5 millimeter watch. I'm trying to see if we have the pricing on it. Yeah, it's expensive, as you would expect from Czapek, 63,000 Swiss francs. So it's going to be over 70 grand US. Bracelets is the same bracelet format that we're familiar with, but this does not work for me. Apparently I can zoom it to infinity and beyond. So there you guys can see it better. So we've got, at first when I saw the pictures of this, I thought, are they doing the 12 o'clock subdial time telling thing, kind of like with the Chronoswiss was for the 1 hour regulator? And it's like, no, that's to accommodate a barrel. So they've got a jewel mounting a barrel. You have this guilloche, which guilloche is supposed to make things look easier to read. I need to see this in person to know if it doesn't or does not. But I don't like this bridge work here across from the 9 to the 3. The handset looks fine. This big old logo, which just looks like at a distance an X to my eyes on the thing. So for me, it just doesn't work for a variety of reasons. I don't care for this look with this guilloche in this colorway. Blue and silver goes. I mean, it's easy enough to read, but this looks like a shiny guilloche. This looks like a guilloche you would expect out of Audemars Piguet. I handled an 1159, and in the boutique, I should say, I couldn't read the time. It was so reflective. Guilloche is designed. Breguet rolled out guilloche and watch dials to cut down on glare, not make it worse. It's not supposed to make it worse. It's supposed to make it more legible. So I'm not sure that's accomplished here. You have that vertical integration, which I've praised on the Czapek and I praised on the Bremont Terra Nova Jump Hour. Here, though, the white space is so busy. I mean, like this it doesn't have the attractiveness of the guilloche that Parmigiani is known for with the barley corn guilloche. This kind of feels like it's trying to do it, but I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm zoomed in as much as I am. It looks a little rough to me. The skeletonization I don't love. I'm inherently, full disclosure for those that don't know, I don't care for tourbillons in general. It's a pointless complication for a wristwatch. I get it. It's wrist candy. If you want it because you think it's cool watching it spin around, I agree it's cool watching it spin around, but its lack of practicality in wristwatches has always alienated me. So, which is fine. They're so expensive. I might as well just have another excuse not to spend money that I didn't want to spend anyway. But I like this less in basically every single way than the typical Antarctique. I like the Antarctiques. I had the Antarctique on my short list for a luxury integrated sports watch. The only reason I ended up with a Parmigiani Tonda instead was the thickness. Czapek has not gotten their Antarctiques under 10 millimeters. At that price point, that's my expectation. It's like you're doing stainless steel and you're asking for more than $20,000 retail. You best get your integrated bracelet watch under 10 millimeters thick. That's my expectation. If you're under $20,000 or you're in a precious metal, I'll make exceptions. Like Omega want to do a precious metal $30,000 Constellation. Okay, more power to you because it's dripping in gold. So that's where the money went. But stuff like this, no. But anyway, I really don't like this design at all. I find this watch shockingly uninteresting. And last year, so this is an opposite. I talked about Chronoswiss and Bremont, and last year they were big disappointments. And now I think they have some pretty decent looking watches. And then last year, Czapek, they didn't lean into the Antarctique. They did a different model. And everyone, I think, was surprised. Hey, look, they aren't just the Antarctique company. And it got a lot of positive buzz. And now it's just like, no, we had to go back to the Antarctique. That's the only thing you guys like. So anyway, I was disappointed with this, but nonetheless, it's a less discussed brand, and they tried something. So, hey, some of you might actually like it. Right. Underachieving says, I think Ulysse Nardin did a 69 watch in the past. Ulysse Nardin does pornographic watches. So Ulysse Nardin would absolutely lean into doing 69 as the name of a watch. I have no doubt whatsoever. They've got all sorts of stuff with mermaids and things that cannot be shown on this channel. So yes, absolutely. Ulysse Nardin, that is right up their alley. I completely believe it. All right. I got two more brands to talk about. And then we are done. You are all free. Of course, you are all free to leave whenever you want. But Hermès. All right. So Hermès, this one I could not. They didn't. I bookmarked this a couple of days ago. I haven't been able to find a lot of really good images of it because I was hoping to get more angles and stuff of it. But basically, it's the Hermès cut Le Temps Suspendu. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but this one. So the Hermès cut's been out for a while now, but the Suspendu version here, and I'm not really into diamonds and stuff, so I'm more looking at the one here on the right. But 39 millimeter rose gold looks really good. It's got that Hermès font, which I really like their numeral font. I think it's really creative and clean, very easy to read. But this version, the Suspendu, where you've got the running seconds down at the 4 o'clock position, again, I just wish I had more angles to really show you. They've got all sorts of different Suspendus going on here that they've revealed. Here's a red one that they also have revealed. But this actually, I think, looks pretty good. I don't know that I like this more than the kind of squared off Hermès that they really get, the H08 that they get a lot of attention for. I like that watch a lot too, and you still get the font. But as a more dress watch, I think this is a pretty good job. What I would do is I would take this off the white strap and put it on the gold bracelet, but have the non-blingy version. So have it without the diamonds. But anyway, Hermès, I wanted to go ahead and mention them. Obviously, Hermès is a big brand, but they're not a big watch brand. But they're getting there, I think. A lot now of collectors are fully crediting Hermès for taking watchmaking seriously. It's not like Versace. Go to Versace's website at some point. No, don't. I don't want you to have the cookies. But if you want to imagine going to Versace's website, the garish, just appalling fashion watch nature of the watches they have would probably be jaw-dropping to you, but most of you have probably been exposed to other brands that have done it. It's just, they're not good. They're not good. Hermès is taking their watchmaking seriously. I think Louis Vuitton is as well. So, but I think Hermès needs to get a lot of credit because they've been doing it for a number of years now. And again, like what we've started to see from brands that have an emphasis not from watchmaking, there's a creativeness on the aesthetic side. There's more of that jewelry aesthetic, which means that they often are willing to play around with things, and sometimes it works really well. And I think this works really well. It's kind of like how I think a lot of why Cartier's very unique design language is so appealing is they come at it from a jeweler perspective. And so they have this different aesthetic in mind when they do stuff, and they have watchmaking chops, but it's that design language that makes them so unique, whereas everyone else is competing with the same basic concepts in their playbook. And Chopard's in a similar boat. I think you look at the Chopard L.U.C collections, a lot of that strength is coming from that they're approaching it from a jeweler's eye standpoint. And since that's what watches often are now, it's working really, really well for them. So I want to go ahead and give credit to the new Hermès cut. I thought that was an interesting reveal from Watches and Wonders. And then finally, I've been mentioning Chopard all throughout this live stream. So let me go ahead and throw them into the mix. This one is not, the link is to a monochrome article in the description below, because at the time I didn't like I think 2 days ago, I was struggling to find good imagery or good something with Chopard's website. I went there this morning though, and I think it's okay now. So you can just go to the website if you want, but this article is perfectly good. So the Chopard L.U.C Quattro. The Quattro is an old line. I think it might be the second oldest line of the L.U.C collection. Historically though, it's kind of like the Parmigiani thing, where I think it was maybe a little too avant-garde for people. They weren't really resonating with it. The L.U.Cs, by and large, are dress watches. And I think a lot of the old Quattros are pretty attractive, but they've like always had the power reserve on the dial. I'm okay with that. A lot of people are not. So here, there is a power reserve indicator, but they've moved it to the back, kind of Grand Seiko style, that Grand Seiko has done on a number of their watches now. And you can see that I think they've done this. I don't know how to describe these hands. I always felt this is a really unique handset, and I like it. It's kind of an aggressive handset. I believe these applied indices are changed up. I don't think this has always been the shape they've used, so that's a little bit different. You've got a pointer date down here at the small seconds. Small seconds is on the interior, I believe, and then the pointer is pointing at the actual date of the day of the month that's going on. So anyway. They've done a few other things. They shrunk this watch down. It's 39 millimeters now. I think it looks very good with this blue frosted dial. So they've got that going on for it. It's just a cleaner, more dress watch aesthetic approach to a watch line that I think needed it. I think this is made, again, I'm going to use that phrase. I've used it a lot today. It's made the watch more commercial. So I think there's going to be more opportunities to sell these. I think it looks good in the gold that they have done. The movement is a new movement. We still have the 9-day power reserve, 9 days of power reserve. So there is horological muscle behind this, and it's something that it depends on the model with Chopards. So it's always good to check, but you can see it right here. This is a Geneva hallmarked movement. So it's going to be at the upper end of their decoration. Some of the LUCs are Geneva hallmarked and some of them are not, just like they even now have some Alpine Eagles Geneva hallmark. So, and Geneva hallmarking also includes the case now. So the case is also qualified, as you can see there. So anyway, 18 karat gold watch, modern dress size at 39 millimeters. This is not a thin watch. It's totally reasonable at 10.4 millimeters thick. But again, you've got this muscle of a 216-hour or 9-day power reserve going on. And again, if we look at the movement, you can see where they've moved the power indicator. It's a little out of focus, but it's up here towards the 12 o'clock position of the watch if it were right side up. So again, I think it's a very impressive watch with a line that's been kind of overlooked in a lot of ways. You can find Quattros quite reduced on the gray market. And that's a general rule for Chopard dress watches anyway. Pricing is not listed here in the article. It's going to be high. It's going to be over 20,000 for sure. But again, actually, if I were to, I'm going to cheat. Let's go to Chopard's website if I can find it, and see if we can load that up. All right, there we go. Got that. Now I just have to all right, it loaded a platinum one. Apparently, I started typing it through. I thought I had tried to look them up this morning. So let me see if we can find that exact one, because platinum obviously is going to, there we go. 38,400. Okay. So significantly more than I would even say. All right. So that's the pricing now that they do have it up on the website. Great looking watch. I think this is a pretty nice dress watch. Chopard models, LUC models, tend to hit like shop worn or whatever it's called now in gray market pretty readily. So you will be able to, I'm very confident that within 2 years, you will be able to find this watch under 30,000 pretty easily. It's still going to be a very expensive watch, no matter, I think, how much it goes down. But anyway, that would put it much more in the realm of looking at used Calatravas, or used Longa ones and Saxonias. I think this watch will be playing in that space. So anyway, if power reserve matters to you, and again, a hand wind watch, it very well could. Definitely one if you want something with some of that caliber muscle in it, not just a pretty face, but actually has something interesting going on in the movement. This would definitely be one I would consider. Very attractive watch, and I like this version better than that platinum one you saw pop up. But credit to them for not doing the whole super. I don't know. I was going to say not doing the whole blue thing, but it's still a shade of blue. Everyone does blue with platinum. I'm saying all that, and then I'm like, I like this blue with gold. I like blue. It's just with platinum, does it always have to be like ice blue? It's like always. That was the big thing out of Watches and Wonders from Chopard, was their new Alpine Eagle in platinum. I was not impressed by that watch, and that is why we are not talking about it. But anyway, I liked the Quattro, so that's the one I'm naming. All right. Underachieving Watch Collector says, I like that Chopard except the price. That's the truth for basically everything from Chopard. I've looked at some of their Alpine Eagles and such, and of course their Lucent Steel L.U.C. model that came out a couple of years ago was my favorite watch of the show that year. I've actually started to see those pop up used now too. Chopard makes some very, very interesting watches. I really like their dress watch line. But again, pricing has always stopped me from pulling the trigger. And again, they're in a price point where it's like, even used, I'm looking at them and it's like, I can look at Patek, I can look at Vacheron, I can look at, precious metal JLC. There's just a lot at Longas. There's just a lot that they have to compete with, but they do a really good job. So they deserve to get some credit, I think. And hence they're showing up here on less discussed watch brands. But that's the last watch I had for you guys. So that is it for this live stream. Thank you very much for tuning in. As I mentioned at the start of the show, I am working on a script. Right, I mean, I need to script it so that I don't stumble over my words. But I'm going to do my 10 favorite models that came out in Watches and Wonders. I will say some of them have been covered today on this live stream. So spoiler, and obviously some of them have not, because we did not talk about 10 watches, and I didn't like every single watch I showed you today. I just thought these were worth discussing. So anyway, most of my main line, I might do some more YouTube shorts. I don't know if that works for people or not, but that usually gets me. I can go over a minute with those now, but it lets me keep my thoughts kind of condensed to quickly sort of say what I think is kind of neat about a watch and just hit its basic stats really quickly and show some close-up images in a phone format. So I've done a few of those. I might do a few more, but we're kind of past the big breadth of Watches and Wonders, and most of the real channels, I'm a fake channel. The real channels who have people there are giving you hands-on video and stuff. So me using press release and marketing and website brand website photos is not going to be as good as, people being able to show you the stuff hands-on. But I'm in Kansas. I'm not in Geneva. I can only do so much for you. So I'm doing what I can, but I guess you get what you pay for. So anyway, thanks again for tuning in. And I'll talk to y'all on the next live stream. I do plan to be back next Saturday. So that's it. Have a good weekend, everybody.